Hi, this is Trey from Spirit Breaker, and this is As the Story Grows.
Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week we welcome Trey Turner and Johnny Allor from Solid State Records' newest signing, Spirit Breaker, to the podcast. The band released their Solid State debut, Cura Nata, back in August. We chatted just before the record dropped. The guys talked about their musical backgrounds, the influence of August Burns Red, the long delay in releasing Cura Nata, and the risk-taking involved in releasing music. This was an absolute delight of a conversation, and I got to enjoy it a second time editing this episode. So I hope y'all find joy getting to know Johnny and Trey from Spirit Breaker. Thanks for hanging out this morning.
Oh, of course, man.
Saturday morning. This is not my usual jam, so I'm caffeinated up. I'm good. So
I haven't had anything. I got some OJ that I might get throughout this call, but yeah, I'm not even a coffee guy. So
oh no, oh man. All right, that's fair. I got children, so I gotta be up at 6:30. Cool. So I'm just like, all right, get caffeinated up, and you gotta go, right?
Man, I appreciate you doing this on a Saturday. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Awesome. You are currently up in Michigan. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah. I grew up in Detroit, the west side of Detroit, like uptown, not downtown the city.
Cool. What was that like?
That's an interesting question because so all right. So my childhood was really nice. My parents, did the best to raise me right. They had me going to a school called Schultz Elementary, which was a decent little nice school. Middle school was that's where I started to see things and like realize that maybe where I live wasn't the best place to grow up. Mm-hmm. And I actually ended up spending the rest of my high school years in a suburban area called Dearborn.
Yeah.
Where I would inevitably be exposed to a multicultural environment. And I didn't discover metal at that point, but it was the gateway for me joining a band and all that.
Gotcha. What was your gateway into like music fandom and in general?
I would say it was my father. Because to this day, I've never asked him, but for whatever reason, he was into like a lot of different alternative bands.
Okay.
Like I remember, like every time we would get in the car, like whenever we go somewhere, he would throw on Stained or Stone Temple Pilots or Rage Against the Machine.
All right.
He loved Linkin Park, so he ended up buying me like for my birthday. My first CD that I ever owned was Meteora.
Oh, nice.
So like he had exposed me to, I'll say, heavier music.
Yeah.
Like I still grew up. I'll use the word typical. Like I obviously growing up in that side of Detroit, there was mostly only like little black kids at the time. So obviously I was listening to a ton of rap.
Yeah.
And then like whenever I'm with my dad, he would show me other things. So I started to inevitably seek that stuff out. Okay. Like I discovered Headbangers Ball one day, and I heard Bullet for My Valentine, Betray You, and As I Lay Dying for the first time ever watching that. And then I remember seeing a music video for Under Oath, whatever is the one where they're in the little house and like people are too small for the house, or maybe they're too big. I can't remember the video. I think it's Writing on the Wall. From that point on, bro, I was sold.
Awesome. Welcome, Johnny.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. I'm trying to figure out how to work this thing here. There we go.
Awesome, Brad. It's early.
Yeah.
I get it. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Trey was just telling me about how he got into music, and so I'll ask you the same question. How'd you get into music?
Oh man, that was a long time ago. I think. Well, the first time I ever played a guitar, my cousin. I think we were like 5 or 6, and he was taking guitar lessons at the time. And honestly, I had no interest in music at that point, and he showed me a Blink-182 song. I think it was Adam's song, and that was the first song I ever learned on guitar. And that was 20 years ago, probably at least. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Trey, I want to follow up with you. You talked about like listening to hip hop, and then like your dad exposing you to like hard rock, and then what was it about the heavier music that made you want to search for that and dive into that more than hip hop?
Man. Okay. This is a little tough for me to answer, so just bear with me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for me growing up at the time, rap started to become so repetitive, but I feel like that happens with every genre. So that's a little subjective, but I'm just saying for the sake of story at that point, everything just kind of was the same regurgitated thing over and over again. And I realized there was this other style of music that I just wasn't diving into. So I decided to look more into that. And obviously, electronic stuff versus actual instruments, I found instruments to be more captivating. So it wasn't so much as me trying to discover new bands at that point. I was just trying to learn more about the bands I was already listening to.
Okay.
And because it seemed like there was so much more to their discography. Like once I discovered Korn, like it took to listen to every single Korn album. So like I remember like I was like, oh man, Lil Wayne dropped a new album, but I got like 4 more Korn albums to go. So it was a journey.
That's cool. You said once you moved out to Dearborn, that's kind of where you got into. Is that when you started playing into bands?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
I moved to Dearborn and I was trying to learn how to scream, I guess. Because I saw a cover video of a guy doing a cover. And I was with my friends and I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then they were like, no, you can't. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna do it. And so I tried and it was dog shit. But, yeah, please excuse my language, but it was one of the most embarrassing experiences for me because like they all just laughed and I was like, damn, I thought I could do it. So I go home and I discovered the instrumental for ABR's freaking song is it the 11th Hour. I found the instrumental for that. And it was the first time I ever heard anything about this band. I was like, what the hell is this? So then at that point, I discovered ABR, which inevitably will become my favorite band of all time. And that kind of like pushed me forward to learn how to scream and is actually what even got me into bands in the first place. Like that's joining bands, starting out with bands.
Yeah. Johnny, when did you start playing in bands?
It had to have been, I'm trying to think when that was. I think I was in 8th grade is when I was in my first band, and there was only 3 of us. And we had just me, a bassist, and a drummer, and we didn't know anything about music. We were mostly we were covering Atreyu. That's what We did, and we used to play in a garage for our block party every summer. That was like our big event.
That sounds lit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did Spirit Breaker come together?
Man.
That's a funny story.
Yeah, like, so who is this question for? Is he answering this or am I answering this?
Either you tag team. Do it.
Well,
Man.
you want me to start and then you can finish
Go ahead,
it?
man.
All right. So what had happened is I was in a band with just one other friend. It wasn't even a band. It was more just like we were trying to write music, and we figured, we could get a couple songs down, and then maybe we could get a band together based on just the music itself. And we ended up at a recording studio in Dearborn with this guy that I never really met before. And we're sitting there, and we're like halfway through recording a song just with the instruments. And he's like, "You guys need a vocalist, and I know this kid that's really good." And he's brought up Trey, and he's like, "Yeah, Trey he can literally sing ABR perfectly." And I was like, "I'll believe that when I see it." And the next thing you know, he texts him, and he literally shows up to the studio, and he's like, "Let me warm up really quick." And so he threw on August Burns Red, of course, and he literally was screaming perfectly to it in the vocal booth. And I was sitting just like out in the outside there listening to it, and I was like, I don't know how he is doing that. I was like, my mind was blown at the time. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was a lot better back then. But yeah, so like, to piggyback off what he's saying, we were a band that was called Faded Gray at the time, which it used to be called Motives before that.
Yeah.
The original vocalist, let's just say he was quite a person. Just go with that. I don't want to bash anyone. Let's just say he was an individual. He did, I guess, like, because I'll never forget when I heard this story. He never thought that the band would ever do anything. So he just pulled band names from bands that were like retired, I guess. Because what ended up happening, Motives was like, "Yeah, bro, that's our name." And I guess they were like, "Oh no, then we'll change our name to Faded Gray." Then one day I'm on the internet on one of our songs on YouTube, and then like there's like 7 comments where they're just like, "Man, Faded Gray, like I was at your comeback show last week, and you can play any." And I was just like, "Man, we had a comeback show?" And then we started getting messages, and I was like, "Sick, bro." So we had to change our name, and there's this weird area of the band where, as we transitioned into Spirit Breaker, things got really, really dark. We basically lost half the band, and it was only myself, Johnny, and Alex. And instead of like scrambling to find new members, we had a friend of mine who's no longer in the band. We had a friend of mine, and we had him try for bass, and then he joined. And we just spent, I think, like months on these 2 songs, Shadow Radiant and Threads. And then we were like, man, as soon as we're done with these songs, we're just going to rebrand everything. And we chose the name Spirit Breaker because we felt like, from a name standpoint, it was very bold and makes a statement, and it kind of encompasses what we are as a band emotionally. And yes, it's the ABR song Spirit Breaker, like that. Yeah. Like I saved that for last.
Yeah, of course.
Like, to be fair, we get asked that, but not as often as I thought we would. Like,
yeah.
Once every couple of months, someone's like, "Is that based off the ABR song?" I'm like, "Yeah." But
No denying that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to showcase your influences in some way, right? Like,
We threw a couple out there. Spirit
yeah,
Breaker was just the only one where the whole band like disagreed. I threw like half the ABR discography out there.
yeah,
That was funny.
that was awesome. Was it your ABR fandom that led you to pursue Solid State Records, or how did that relationship come about?
Okay, see that's a weird question because yes, back then yes, but it's weird. So starting music at first, I was like, man, all my favorite bands are solid state bands, and that was from like I want to say 2007 all the way up until 2010, which is where my musical influences did a whole 360 at that point. And someone made the mistake of showing me like this band called Circle of Contempt, and then Within the Ruins and Veil of Maya, and I was like, "What is this?" And they were like, "Oh, bro, this is prog. This is like," and they were like, "Yeah, bro, this is like a technical subgenre of metal." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Bro, these song signatures make no sense." And then I had to hear more.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm listening to BT Bam, and like I realized I was like, "Man, standard metal is kind of boring." So at that point, I wanted to be on Sumerian so bad because that's where all the technical stuff was. And I was like, man, they got Periphery, Circle of Intent, like the Faceless, Veil of Maya, Animals as Leaders. I was like, yeah, bro, that's got to be where I go. And then Sumerian did this weird little change, and I was like, I don't know what this is anymore. But as I got older and started to mature more, so I want to say like once I hit the age of like 25 to 26 and things started getting serious, um, you no longer look at a label from a standpoint of, oh, I want to be on this label because it has all of my favorite bands. You kind of want to look at a label from like, what do you do for the bands you have in your roster? And Solid State, funny enough, or poetically, however you want to put it, it just seemed like that was the place for us, like where we belong. And it just kind of worked out that way.
That's awesome. I know you guys had Garrett from Silent Planet on Human Nature on a Satellite Earth. Did that relationship help with Solid State at all, or?
Actually, yes, most definitely.
Cool.
It's weird. Like, so we were talking to Solid State, I want to say since either super late 2016 or like the beginning of 2017.
Oh, wow.
So we've been trying to figure out, were we going to be a part of the family or not? And it all started, the luck of the draw, really. This John Collier, this promoter, he threw a show at a hookah lounge, which is unheard of for me. It just random. Michigan's weird. So we had a show at a hookah lounge, and Silent Planet was doing a one-off. They had like a couple tour dates that they were doing, I think, on their way back home. And this would be the second time that we've ever played with Silent Planet. Granted, the first time, I think they were only touring off their first album. And this was transitioning into the second album. So this particular show was the first time that they've ever played Orphans, I think. And I remember like, we were like, man, if we can get the spot before they play, they'll at least be able to watch us play, because it was all like bands pulling from a hat. So luckily we just got that co-headlining spot. And when Garrett had saw us before, we were Faded Gray, but now we were Spirit Breaker. So I think the music is like night and day comparatively. He was, I guess, blown away really by our performance. In his words, he was like, it is very rare that when we tour and there's an opening band, there's rarely anything that's exciting, which is kind of disheartening to hear. But it made me feel good about what we were doing as a band, because I'm like, bro, at least that means that we stand out. At least we have some kind of idea of what we're trying to accomplish. And because he felt that way, our relationship started that day forward.
Nice.
Um, and everything else is just kind of, the politics of it all. We played a couple more shows together, like throughout the years. I want to say 2019 and 2020 was the turning point. He introduced us to our current A&R, and we, just figured things out by emailing him like every so often, and it eventually led us to this point.
How did 2020 and the shutdowns and the pandemic affect you guys and the band?
Oh my god!
Like everybody else, right? A complete shit show. Right?
I'm gonna start this, and I'm gonna let Johnny carry it away.
Okay.
So, man, all right. So before the signing, right? And like, I'm glad we're talking about this in this interview, because I don't think it's something that we've said out loud or publicly to any of the fans. New fans, at least. I think the older fans kind of know this, because I feel like most of them come from Michigan and Ohio. But basically, so this album that's coming out, Cura Nata, we started recording this in 2019.
Oh man.
Now, technically, we recorded Hello Drifter at the end of 2017, and then it came out, I think, May of 2018. And so we were like, okay, we built this style off of that song. That song kind of changed everything. So we were like, okay, this is the sound that we want. We're going to kind of make similar things like that. So naturally, as we started to make an album, we're like, we're just going to remix and remaster it, because I made sure I used the same vocal style so it would all fit, and then add that to the album, right? So we're like, cool, bro. Late 2019 is probably when it's going to drop. It didn't work out. We started releasing singles in 2021. We dropped Pure Fury and Wonder. I'm sorry, in 2020. We dropped Pure Fury and Wonder. And at that point, we're like, okay, cool. The album's just going to come out in the fall.
Yeah.
We're just going to do that. It's going to be a good time. We dropped our second single, A Cure for Wellness. And then that's when it happened. That's when Solid State was like, wait. Just what if you just didn't drop it? And we're like, we've already started the release process. And they were like, nah. And I'm just kind of like, bro, we had this all planned out. They're like, yeah, just you forget that plan. And so September of 2020, when Cura Nata should have dropped, and they were just like, yeah, so we're going to talk about these contracts, and we're going to do all this other stuff, and we're going to get you ready to drop the album. And, we're just like, so when would it come out? And then they're like, July, August. And we're like, bro, that's a whole year. We've already dropped 2 singles. So, man, oh my God, just being in limbo with an album that you've technically at this point, so we worked on this album for like 3 years, it seems. It's just like, is it cool? Yeah. Am I thrilled? Of course I am. I'm ecstatic. I couldn't have hoped for anything better. But it's just weird. It's just like, I don't want to ever hold on to music that long ever again.
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel about it musically. But obviously, I'll let Johnny express how it was from his perspective.
Well, there is one particular song on the new album that was written in 2016. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was saying, we've had it recorded for a couple of years almost. It seems like we've been sitting on it, and then when we try to get ready to release it, it just that happened, and we had to postpone it again. And even Solid State asked us what we thought about, well, you guys have been sitting on it for so long. How do you feel about it? Do you even like the album anymore?
Oh.
Yeah, we do, but we want to get it out there so we can continue, because I already have half another album written, so we're ready to go as far as music. We want to keep releasing stuff.
Yeah, it's like good that you have this record ready to go and you can like get it out there finally with the label, but it's like, all right, these songs are old. What's fresh? What's new? You have new things to say in the moment, right? Like
exactly.
That's the past version of yourself, and you're just like,
Well, funny that you say that, because, and I can only speak from a lyrical standpoint. I won't say this what they are on record, but I've experienced a lot of personal things. Some dark, some really cool, some not so great. And it just seems like everything that I have been experiencing, I've already written about it like years prior, which it's kind of wild to me because there are 2 songs that are dropping. Well, right now, Floros has dropped already. And then there's a new single. I have no idea when this will come out publicly, so I don't know if it'll be out by that time. But there is a new single that we're releasing next Friday called "The Mountain Between Us," which, fun fact, it's based off a movie that I never watched. I know you're like, Trey, what do you mean? But so all right, so I watched the trailer, right? And I was like, oh man, this looks great. This looks really sad, but it could be really like beautiful or whatever. And like, do you know what the movie is?
No.
Okay, so real quick. Basically, Idris Elba and I can't remember the female actress's name, but they're basically both getting on this flight and they're both headed to the same state or country or whatever the hell. And basically they missed the flight and the flight somehow booked. And she's like, oh, I have this friend who like owns a private plane. We'll just ask him, and we'll pay him and he'll fly us and blah, blah, blah. And Idris is like, sick, that'll work out. So then they go to this place, they meet the guy. The guy is flying them. There's all this turbulence. Everything goes wrong. The plane crashes in the middle of nowhere in the snow. So she breaks her legs in the crash. So in the snow, he has to build like this raft, and like he uses like most of his luggage to create her like a blanket, so she's like secure and warm. And he literally pushes her through the snow, I think most of the film, to try and find like salvation. And I was like, I watched the trailer, I'm like, man, I gotta watch this because this looks great. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna make this a song title. And yeah, that was like 2 years ago, and I never watched it. I said when the song drops Friday is when I will watch the movie.
All right.
But my point in bringing that up is like that song lyrically, I connect with it now because I'm going through a lot of things that song like entails. But it's just crazy because, like I said, like when I wrote that song, it wasn't even about anyone or anything in particular. It was just about experiences that I had going through like many years before the song was even written. But I needed ammo for a song, so I just made it from that. And also the concept of 2 people traveling through snow to reach one another. Lyrically, that's actually in the song. But now it's got a whole different meaning because of, life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
That's cool. Well, yeah, the record is finally coming out August 13th. Solid State Records. You guys announced new bass player Hannah joined the band. What is on the horizon? Are you guys hoping to tour once this record drops, or are you guys, holding pattern. That's some people are like going out there already. Some people are like, we're gonna wait and see because I've already seen shows getting re-canceled again.
Okay. So, all right. Obviously, as a young and growing band, it isn't really up to us if we want to tour or not. We don't have a choice. Um, I want to tour because I want to see the world, you know. I want to find different things and different experiences, you know, that can show me love. Obviously, I like art. I want to be able to see these things in different cities and even countries and things like that. But as you said, I'm kind of a nightmare right now. Like even we've been talking to a couple booking agents. They're straight up like, where do you want to go next year? Because this year is like it's dead. Like I think there is like so many tours coming to Detroit that I think in the week of September, I'm almost fairly certain that there's a show every day for the first 2 weeks of September. And I'm like, that alone showed me, I was like, there's no way that we're going to be able to tour this year. Like there is a tour with another solid state band, Earth Groans. Earth Groans has a tour with In Search of Solace. And it was only two of them. And I was like, we consider just asking, you know, if we could hop on because we're doing something with Earth Groans later on anyway. But when I saw the dates, I'm like, man, that's in September where literally everything is happening. So I'm like, I don't, we're still learning. I don't know how all these things work, but it just seems everything feels so claustrophobic with everyone trying to cram in their tour schedule that was supposed to be a tour schedule from last year. So I think as of now, we have something coming up in like mid to late February, early March. And there is another tour, and like I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this out loud. But I can say this. I can say this. It is a tour. I believe we're going to shoot for May with a Sharp Tone band. I'll say that it's a new Sharp Tone band that dropped an album last year. To give you hints, if you care that much to figure that out. And then the other band, I'm not sure what label they're on, so I have no details I can give you. Just know that they're like young progressive metalcore bands.
Nice. That's awesome. Are you guys doing a CD release show? Or are you going to try to go live stream route, or just like the record's just going to be out there and like?
I would love to have a CD release show. I don't know if we've actually talked completely about doing it.
Man, you asking all the dark questions. As of now, oh my God, it pains me to say this. As of now, there's no plans for an album release show. Like he said, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but our bassist already has plans that was locked in like before she joined. You know, so she won't be able to make it. And then like we could do it with our former bassist, but it's still so short notice. And like it sucks. Would I love to give the fans an album release show to promote the album? Of course. But like I would rather do a show, even though this doesn't make much sense, but I've seen bands doing it. I would rather do a show that's like months from now where we have like a larger merch roster and people are familiar with the songs. And maybe if they even want to come out of town, they have the option to do so with so much time ahead of everything. I'd rather shoot probably like maybe late November, even December for an album release show.
Yeah.
But it just would not work out if we tried to make that August 13th day.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's not that far.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really not. Yeah. Johnny, you mentioned having songs already written. Is that what you guys are looking forward to next? Like new music? Like we've been sitting on this record so long, we're antsy to get back in and record new stuff? Or is it just we're going to let this record breathe for a minute?
Yeah, so I like to be ahead kind of because I like to take my time when I'm writing. So the more time that I can give myself to get this new album, I'm going to take as much time as I can. So me getting these songs out, by the time I get to the end of the album, I'll have time to go back through them, because sometimes I've learned that when I get to like the end of writing, my writing style will change slightly, or I might like progress into a different kind of a sound by the time I get to the end of it. So I'll go back through them and try and, like pick up the songs that weren't as strong as towards like when I got to the end of it. So the more time, the better for me, basically. I like to be ahead.
Just because you mentioned Hannah earlier,
Yeah.
and a lot of people have been asking because locally everyone knows that Hannah sings. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone's asking like, "Yo, are you guys gonna come out with a new song like a little bit after the record, that features Hannah on it?" And my response to that is, well, fortunately for all of you, Hannah literally opens the record because funny enough, when the album was finished, and like I agreed to not force the band to do this next album, which is gonna kill me, but whatever. I have this problem where everything has to have an intro.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, which is a little weird. There's a song called Stardust Memory that opens the record, and it literally immediately starts with Hannah singing. And I sing too. Actually, most of the song is just kind of us duet singing. And it's weird because the song is just mostly ambient, but it's 3 minutes of that. So it's 3 minutes of us singing, a lot of ambient guitar, almost no drums. But the song is like a ode to Pure Fury and Wonder, as the lyrics and the song from Stardust Memory immediately slides right into Pure Fury and Wonder. So in my mind, they're one solid piece. I think with her live, once we start playing, there are a lot of singing choruses that I do that are not like the harsh, clean screaming like the Architects sampler stuff. There are parts where I don't do that, and it's just actual just singing. I think live, she's just going to do all those parts, and then we'll duet. When I scream sing, she'll just do cleans underneath, to make our live performance a little bit more full. As far as talking about the rest of the album, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every musician feels this way. No matter how many singles you put out, at least from my perspective, there's just no clear indication of what the album will sound like based off the singles. And it's so weird to see people's reactions to songs that you might not feel the same way about. Like Floros, for example. I love that song, but to me, Floros is like the weakest track on the album. Then I see comments like, bro, I've seen this is my favorite single yet, and I'm like, what? I'm like, bro, like it's just a bunch of breakdowns, dog. And they're like, oh my god, it's so heavy, and I'm like, it does the same thing like three times. They're like, I love it. I'm like, man, it just goes to show that fan versus album, I will never understand like how people like hear music. I won't, because like some of the stuff I've heard like so far, like what did they say? Like people are saying that they think that they enjoy Pure Fury more than Hello Drifter, and I'm like, you like what you like, but No. Like, man, I get it. But I just feel like Drifter is like, maybe it's because they haven't seen it live, but Drifter does everything live that you expect him to. Like it's funny because it's a beater, but for me that's just like an emotional song. And you know, when people tell me they like Tomorrow's More, I'm like,
it's
I was
hard.
That's funny. Yeah, I get that. I talked to Austin from The Undertaking, and I told him like when the singles came out, I was like, nah, this ain't it. I don't like this. And then when I heard the record, I was like, okay, I get it. I dig this.
Oh, it's so crazy, man. It's so crazy because you'll hear something and you'll be like, and then if you just get to hear the full body, you're like, oh, but it
makes sense
because I feel like, man, being musicians, I feel like we just take such risks with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Granted, our record isn't like that. If anything, we show the fans like the multiple sides of the album, but like there's a good chunk of it that is like super technical, and a lot of those songs we didn't release as singles, so like they're gonna hear that and be like, oh, and I'm gonna be like, yeah.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just